There are objects in the history of humanity that carry much more than the weight of their jewels or their material value. They are silent witnesses to ancient secrets, forgotten pacts, and forces that transcend our understanding. The imperial state crown, worn by British monarchs at crucial moments, is one of these objects. More than a symbol of power, it is an artifact imbued with stories of blood, curses, and energy that have shaped not only the fate of its bearers but also the course of world history. Why would the British royal family, with all its power and resources, never destroy this object, even knowing the misfortunes it causes? What supernatural forces protect this artifact, and what is the price paid for its continued existence? The history of the imperial state crown does not begin in the 20th century, when it assumed its current form. Its roots trace back to much more ancient times, involving extinct civilizations, mysterious rituals, and events marked by blood and power. Every stone encrusted in the crown has its own story, but together they form something far greater, an artifact charged with energy that transcends the material. Its creation was no accident. Every detail was chosen with a purpose that remains partially hidden to this day. The most intriguing element of the crown is the Black Prince's ruby, a stone that has passed through the hands of conquerors, kings, and generals, bearing witness to centuries of violence. It is believed that the ruby was taken from the turban of a Moorish ruler killed in battle by Edward of Woodstock, the famed Black Prince, in the 14th century. Historical accounts describe that, upon his death, the ruler uttered a curse: "All who wear this stone will know unimaginable tragedies." From that moment on, its trajectory has been marked by premature deaths, wars, and political instability. But was it merely a verbal curse, or was something deeper set into motion at that moment? The ruby is not alone in this story. The Cullinan II diamond, one of the largest and most famous diamonds in the world, also carries a mystical aura. Discovered in South Africa in 1905, it was immediately surrounded by mystery. Local miners refused to touch the rough diamond, claiming it was sacred, and that ancestral spirits of the land had placed the gift deep within the earth to remain untouched. Nevertheless, it was removed, cut, and offered to the British crown. Since then, tales of misfortune and strange coincidences have followed the Cullinan and its fragments. The crown's connections to ancient civilizations extend beyond its stones. Esoteric studies suggest that the design of the imperial state crown, with its crosses, fleurs-de-lis, and arches, is inspired by sacred geometries meant to channel spiritual energy. Did you know that these specific shapes appear repeatedly in ancient temples and religious artifacts around the world? Nothing was created without purpose. The arrangement of the stones and the shape of the crown not only symbolize the monarch's divine power, but also create an energy field that, according to some occult specialists, links the wearer to far greater forces. Additionally, little-known historical documents suggest that the crown underwent various consecrations over the centuries, including rituals of Celtic and medieval origin. During the 15th century, for instance, reports indicate that a sect of alchemists was secretly hired to enhance the crown's spiritual gifts. It is said that these rituals involved rare metals and alchemical formulas with the aim of transforming the crown into a conduit for supernatural energies. But were these rituals successful? Or did they open a portal to something beyond anyone's control? Another crucial element is the Shrine of St. Edward, one of the oldest and most revered pieces in the British Crown collection, which originally included religious relics. For centuries, coronation ceremonies were held at Westminster Abbey, where the crown was activated through prayers and sacred chants. However, these rituals also carried a darker side. Records indicate that during the coronation of Charles I in 1626, monks present reported feeling a strange presence in the abbey, a force that seemed to intensify as the crown was placed on the king's head. Coincidence? Perhaps not. The tragedies and conflicts that followed the crown's creation, such as civil wars and royal executions, are believed by many to be part of the trail of its accumulated energy. After all, how could an object with such a bloody history be completely harmless? Each stone carries the emotions, fears, and desires of its previous bearers. And when these stones are combined into a single artifact, the result is a dense and unpredictable reservoir of energy. What is most unsettling, however, is that the crown does not appear to be merely a passive object. Historical accounts mention strange occurrences involving the artifact, such as unexplained lights emanating from it and feelings of oppression reported by those who came too close. Could it be possible that the crown is, in some way, alive? And if so, who or what might be connected to it? The origin of the crown prompts us to consider something greater. Is it merely a symbol of human power, or a bridge to something transcendent? The fact that so many historical accounts converge on the same idea, that the crown possesses energy beyond comprehension, cannot be ignored. Furthermore, did its creators know exactly what they were doing, or did they accidentally give form to something they could not foresee? The gemstones, the rituals, the sacred geometric design, and the bloody stories leave us with one certainty. The imperial state crown is far more than a jewel. It is an object laden with meaning, energy, and possibly a hidden purpose that continues to influence the course of history to this very day. The imperial state crown is not merely an inanimate object. It carries within itself an energetic burden that transcends time, shaping the fate of its bearers and, disturbingly, influencing global events. Since its creation, the crown has exacted a heavy price, functioning as a catalyst for forces that even its most ardent defenders cannot control. More than isolated tragedies, its influence seems to act in cycles, like an inevitable toll that keeps the curse active and renewed. Occultists and scholars of cursed objects believe the crown operates as a kind of cyclical energy accumulator. This means that it not only stores the energy of every historical event it has witnessed, but also periodically needs to release it in the form of tragedies. This theory could explain why, throughout the history of the British monarchy, catastrophic events seem to occur with an almost premeditated regularity. Could these moments be the crown's energy purges? It is hard to believe that such precision is merely coincidental. A notable instance of this toll occurred during the reign of Charles II. After the restoration of the monarchy in 1660, Charles was crowned in a solemn ceremony that restored stability to the kingdom. However, the years that followed were marked by disasters. The Great Plague of London in 1665 and the Great Fire of 1666 devastated the city and the nation. Historical accounts suggest that, following these events, the king confided to close members of the court that the crown seemed to weigh more than it should, as if something invisible was trying to crush him. Were these disasters the price demanded by the energy accumulated within the artifact? In the 19th century, Queen Victoria also experienced the effects of the curse in a particularly painful way. During her long reign, she wore the crown on several occasions, but her life was marked by constant grief. Victoria lost several of her children and grandchildren to mysterious illnesses, in addition to facing political and personal instability. According to private records, the Queen even ordered the crown to be kept away from her for long periods, stating that she felt drained after using the artifact in official ceremonies. What exactly was the crown taking from her? Another intriguing and lesser-known episode was the attempted theft of the crown by Thomas Blood in 1671. During the heist, Blood was inexplicably caught by guards who appeared at the exact moment, as if guided by a higher force. Some esoteric historians suggest that the crown itself possesses an invisible protective barrier, an energy that prevents it from being taken by unworthy hands. This incident raised questions. Is the crown protected by something physical or by a supernatural force that does not allow its removal or destruction? The British royal lineage, equally intriguingly, seems to be a direct target of the crown's curse. It is not only isolated tragedies that affect the artifact's bearers, but a chilling pattern of losses and scandals that spans entire generations. The reign of George V was marked by the instability that culminated in the abdication of Edward VIII, the king who renounced the throne in 1936. Although Edward refused the crown, his life after abdication was shrouded in isolation and rumors of deep depression. Is it possible to escape the crown's influence once it is tied to the lineage? But it is not only the direct bearers of the crown who suffer. The artifact's dense energy seems to reverberate through the members of the royal family and even the realm itself. Queen Elizabeth II, though the longest reigning monarch in British history, lived under the shadow of turbulent events. The fire at Windsor Castle in 1992, for example, is attributed by some spiritual historians to the crown's accumulated energy. Guards who worked on the recovery of the site reported hearing inexplicable sounds and feeling an oppressive presence near the location where the crown was kept. Rituals to purify the crown have been conducted over the centuries, but none have succeeded. One of the most famous occurred during the reign of Henry VIII, who commissioned a group of magicians to perform a protection spell on the artifact. Historical records indicate that the result was disastrous, with reports of explosions and smoke within the room where the ritual was conducted. What could have gone wrong? Could the crown's energy be so powerful that even the most experienced practitioners could not control it? More recently, the crown's role in global events has returned to the spotlight among modern occultists. Some believe that crises such as the 2008 financial collapse and the Falklands conflict are directly linked to the energy released by the crown during moments of transition or instability. The idea that the object is a catalyst for chaos may seem exaggerated, but is it really? The patterns are undeniable, and history does not lie. Employees of the Tower of London, where the crown is kept under maximum security, have also reported experiences that indicate its supernatural nature. A retired guard, in an anonymous interview, described an event in which a human-shaped shadow appeared to move around the artifact in the dead of night. Others mentioned a feeling of being watched while on duty, a discomfort that disappeared when they moved away from the site. What kind of energy could be acting upon these individuals? Additionally, there are reports of disturbing dreams affecting those who spend too much time near the crown. During World War II, when the artifact was transferred to a secret hiding place, one of the individuals responsible for guarding it reported visions of battles and destruction that he could not explain. Were these images manifestations of accumulated energy? Or perhaps glimpses of what was to come? Finally, the indestructibility of the crown is a mystery in itself. Even during moments when it was dismantled, such as during the English Revolution in the 17th century, its pieces seem to have found their way back to be reassembled. Some experts believe the crown has a spiritual bond so strong with the royal lineage that, even if it were physically destroyed, its essence would continue to exist, ready to manifest again. The curse of the crown is not just a legend. It is a tangible phenomenon, a reminder that power always comes at a price. And as long as the artifact continues to exist, the monarchy and the world at large will continue to feel its impact. At the heart of the power of the British monarchy lies a secret kept for centuries, a hidden pact forged in times of despair that not only shaped the destiny of the royal family but also influenced global events. More than a mere tradition of coronations and symbols, this pact is a spiritual link connecting the royal lineage to unseen forces capable of sustaining or destroying entire empires. The imperial state crown is both the receptacle and physical manifestation of this agreement, and the price for its power continues to be paid to this day. This pact is believed to have its roots in the 15th century, when England faced a period of political chaos and military instability. The Plantagenet dynasty was in ruins, and the war for the throne between the houses of York and Lancaster, known as the Wars of the Roses, threatened to dissolve the kingdom. It was in this desperate context that the first accounts of a dark agreement began to emerge. It is said that the monarchy, seeking to ensure its survival, turned to a secret order known as the Lords of the Veil. This order, composed of masters of the occult, descendants of pagan and druidic traditions, practiced rituals capable of transcending the boundaries of the material world. According to rare and fragmented manuscripts, preserved in secrecy to this day, the Lords of the Veil proposed a pact. In exchange for ensuring that the royal lineage would remain in power, the crown would become the link between monarchs and spiritual forces from a higher, or lower, dimension. These forces, described as arcane entities or forgotten gods, would grant protection, stability, and divine authority to the monarchy. However, the pact would not come without a price. The crown would be cursed, and its energy would need to be continuously fed through sacrifices, suffering, and tribulations endured by those who wore it. The ceremony establishing this pact is said to have taken place in 1471 at Westminster Abbey, shortly after the decisive Battle of Tewkesbury, where the House of York solidified its claim to the throne. During this ceremony, the crown was anointed with human blood, while chants in an ancient language echoed through the abbey's walls. The few existing records describe inexplicable phenomena during the ritual. Blinding lights filled the space, and witnesses reported feeling an overwhelming presence in the room, as though something very old was watching. From that moment on, the crown ceased to be a mere earthly symbol and became an object of power, tied to a pact that could never be broken. But who were the Lords of the Veil, and why did they vanish so suddenly in the 17th century? Occult researchers suggest that the order did not disappear completely but rather retreated into the shadows, continuing to operate as guardians of the pact. There are indications that their practices were absorbed by secret societies, such as the Rosicrucians and later the Freemasons, whose members often maintained close ties to the British monarchy. Some even speculate that rituals connected to the pact are still performed within the walls of Buckingham Palace and the Tower of London. These rituals, however, are not merely intended to reaffirm the pact. They are conducted to stabilize the energy accumulated in the crown and prevent it from becoming uncontrollable. According to accounts from anonymous insiders, black candles and chants in Latin or unknown languages are used to channel the crown's forces and mitigate its destructive influence. However, not all rituals have been successful. During the Victorian era, for instance, an experiment led by alchemists to purify the crown resulted in a fire in a subterranean chamber of Buckingham Palace, an event that was suppressed from the official historical record. The pact, however, does not affect only the royal lineage. As the focal point of powerful energies, the crown seems to influence global events, especially in times of political or economic instability. It is notable how the height of the British Empire during the 18th and 19th centuries coincided with periods when the crown was more frequently displayed at public ceremonies and used as a symbol of divine authority. However, the empire's decline and the crises of the 20th century suggest that the power of the pact is not eternal, or perhaps the energies contained within the crown are depleting, making it increasingly unstable. This raises the question: who within the royal family truly understands the depth of this pact? There is no doubt that some monarchs have attempted to break free from its influence. Edward VIII, who abdicated the throne in 1936, is often cited as someone who consciously rejected the weight of the pact. His words, "I was not born for this," take on a completely new meaning when analyzed from this perspective. Did he abdicate not only for love of Wallace Simpson but also to escape a fate he knew to be inevitable? Henry VIII, on the other hand, is an example of a king who actively sought to resist the pact. His break with the Catholic Church and the founding of the Church of England were not merely political acts but also attempts to sever spiritual ties he considered a threat. During his reign, there are records that he attempted to conduct his own rituals, involving court magicians, to alter the nature of the pact. These rituals, however, failed, and Henry died tormented by illness and paranoia. The indestructibility of the crown is another point reinforcing the idea that the pact remains alive. During the English Revolution in 1649, the crown was dismantled and melted down by order of Oliver Cromwell. However, the gemstones and fragments of gold were mysteriously recovered and reassembled after the restoration of the monarchy. Some believe the pact makes it impossible to completely destroy the crown, and even if it were physically destroyed, its spiritual essence would continue to exist, waiting to manifest again. The pact, then, is not merely a dark secret of the monarchy. It is what sustains the royal lineage, but also what imprisons it. It connects the royal family not only to the history of the United Kingdom, but to the destiny of the world. As long as the crown exists, the pact will remain active, demanding sacrifices and shaping history in ways that few can comprehend. And this leads to an unsettling thought: how much longer can the monarchy bear the weight of this burden? The imperial state crown is more than just an object. It is an entity, a physical manifestation of ancient forces that transcend human understanding. Its destruction is not only unlikely, but something the crown itself seems to actively prevent. While the idea of destroying an artifact so laden with tragedy and sacrifice might seem logical, the act of unmaking the crown would unleash consequences far more catastrophic. This is not merely a matter of superstition or tradition. What is at stake is the balance of forces that sustains not only the British monarchy but perhaps the very political and spiritual fabric of the modern world. For centuries, the crown has been protected by a combination of rituals and near-obsessive reverence. Its destruction has never been seriously considered, and there are clear reasons for this. According to esoteric texts preserved by occult orders and experts on cursed objects, destroying the crown would not end its influence. On the contrary, it would initiate an even more dangerous process. The most unsettling theory suggests that the crown acts as a spiritual anchor, containing a conscious entity or force tied to the pact that originated its power. Removing or destroying the crown would be akin to opening a cage that has, for centuries, kept this force in check. Some historical events reinforce this theory. During the English Revolution in 1649, when Oliver Cromwell ordered the dismantling and destruction of the crown, occult records indicate that the process was far from straightforward. After the artifact was dismantled and its gemstones removed, reports surfaced of unusual phenomena. Extreme temperature fluctuations in locations where the fragments were stored, mysterious deaths among those who directly handled the artifact, and even accounts of terrifying visions of human-like shadows or whispers in unknown languages. When the monarchy was restored in 1660, what surprised many was how easily the fragments were recovered and the crown reassembled, almost as if something was guiding its reconstruction. This pattern repeated during the revolutionary fervor of 18th century Europe, when republican ideas threatened the British monarchy. While there was no explicit attempt to destroy the crown, there are reports of secret meetings among nobles and advisors who suggested removing the artifact as a way to symbolically weaken the monarchy's power. However, all proposals were abandoned after participants reported disturbing dreams involving the artifact, visions of fire, destruction, and a dark presence watching them. Could it be that the crown directly influences the minds of those who dare to challenge it? But what makes the crown's destruction even more unfeasible is the political and spiritual impact it would have. Experts in political symbolism argue that the crown is not just an artifact of power but the heart of the British monarchical system. Without it, not only would the monarchy's symbolism be destroyed, but so would its legitimacy as a political and spiritual force. For centuries, the crown has represented the connection between the divine and the earthly, a relic that transcends mundane politics to occupy a unique place in British culture and spirituality. To destroy it would be to sever an invisible contract with the British people, and perhaps with the world itself. Furthermore, modern occultists warn that the crown, while a physical object, possesses properties that make it closer to a sentient being than a mere piece of jewelry. Guards at the Tower of London, where the artifact is kept, frequently report phenomena suggesting that the crown has a presence. Some describe a faint humming sound or whispers as they approach it. Others claim to feel shifts in the room's temperature or a sense of oppression, as if something invisible were pressing down on them. It is not hard to imagine that the crown itself might exert influence over those tasked with its safekeeping, ensuring its own survival. Then there are the rituals surrounding the crown. Since its creation, the crown has been associated with complex ceremonies that not only reinforce its symbolic status but also stabilize the energy accumulated within it. These rituals are not simple prayers or traditions. They involve elements that date back to practices far older than Christianity. According to leaked accounts from royal insiders, the rituals performed at the Tower of London and Buckingham Palace include the use of black candles, geometric symbols drawn with gold powder, and chants in dead languages. The purpose is clear: to keep the crown's energy under control and prevent it from becoming unstable. The very idea of the crown's instability is something few dare to explore. Some occultists suggest that the energy contained within the artifact is at a critical point of saturation. This means that if the crown were destroyed or neglected, that energy could manifest in unpredictable ways. This is not just about natural disasters or wars, it is about a spiritual rupture that could have consequences on a global scale. Imagine an energetic explosion that affects not only the physical realm but also the spiritual one. This is precisely what the stabilization rituals aim to prevent. Perhaps the most compelling reason the crown is not destroyed is the idea that it is essential to the very existence of the monarchy. According to some esoteric theories, the crown is not a passive symbol, it requires a bearer. This is why, even in times of crisis, the royal lineage has been preserved. Without a bearer to channel its energy, the crown would become an uncontained object, with unpredictable consequences for the world. It is not just the monarchy that needs the crown needs the monarchy. There is also the fear of the void that the crown's destruction would leave behind. Objects of power never completely disappear. Their destruction often creates a spiritual residue that attracts other forces. And if, in destroying the crown, something more powerful or darker were to take its place, could the United Kingdom withstand such a force without the spiritual link the crown represents? Above all, the crown is a reminder that power always comes at a price. It cannot be destroyed, not because it is physically indestructible, but because its essence is intertwined with history, politics, and the very spiritual balance of the modern world. To destroy it would be to open the gates to a chaos no one is prepared to face. Perhaps the real question is not why the crown is not destroyed, but who, or what, is ensuring that it continues to exist. The imperial state crown is, above all, an object of unparalleled power. But its true strength lies not only in its material value or what it symbolizes. Within its structure lies something far deeper, something that defies natural laws. More than a cursed object or a historical artifact, the crown is a channel, an anchor, and a manifestation of supernatural forces intertwined with the destiny of the British monarchy and, perhaps, the world. Since its creation, the crown was designed to be more than an ornament. Its design, with crossed arches, fleurs de lis, and crosses, follows a geometric pattern that dates back to the tradition of sacred geometries used by ancient civilizations. These specific patterns were known to occultists and alchemists as keys to attract and store spiritual energy. According to little-known accounts, parts of the gold used in the crown were said to come from sacred relics, including objects taken from Celtic altars and even ancient temples in Britain. This means the very material of the crown was already imbued with energies before it was ever forged. But what truly makes the crown unique is its interaction with the forces surrounding it. Experts in spiritual symbolism suggest that the crown is not merely a conductor of energy. It is an object that stabilizes these forces and keeps them concentrated within its physical limits. Some say that without the crown, these forces could scatter chaotically, triggering catastrophic events. This would explain why the United Kingdom, through centuries of global crises, has managed to preserve its monarchical structure while other empires have collapsed. The crown, it seems, is more than a symbol of power. It is an anchor that binds these energies to British soil. Esoteric theories also suggest that the crown might function as an energy portal, connecting spiritual and physical planes. Studies by occultists indicate that the crown's geometric patterns are similar to diagrams found in Egyptian and Mesopotamian temples, where rituals of spiritual connection were performed. There is speculation that, during coronation rituals at Westminster Abbey, the crown becomes a kind of key that unlocks ancestral energies, connecting the monarch to cosmic forces that sustain the monarchy. Some claim this portal is not just a channel of power, but also a barrier that prevents something on the other side from entering our plane. This theory of a portal is not purely symbolic. Historical records show that the rituals performed during coronations are meticulously planned to ensure that nothing gets out of control. Leaked accounts suggest that during the coronation of George VI in 1937, there was a sensation of vibrant energy within the abbey, to the point that some candles flickered as if extinguished by an invisible wind. Clerics present reported feeling a heavy presence, as if something was observing the ritual. These accounts are not isolated. Similar mentions appear in earlier coronations, suggesting that the crown plays a central role in channeling forces we cannot fully comprehend. But this interaction between the crown and its bearer comes at a cost. Many occult scholars believe the crown drains the vital energy of whoever wears it, establishing a parasitic bond. This process could explain why many monarchs who wore the crown for extended periods lived lives marked by physical or emotional suffering. Queen Victoria, for example, wore the crown on several occasions but avoided doing so in private moments, claiming she felt an oppressive pressure whenever the artifact was in her presence. Was this pressure the crown draining her energy, or something even more complex? This energy drain could also explain the patterns of tragedy and instability associated with the royal lineage. Occultists who have studied the crown's history suggest that it not only consumes vital energy but also amplifies the emotions and intentions of its wearer. If the monarch harbors feelings of anxiety, doubt, or fear, these energies would be amplified and potentially projected onto the world. This could explain why moments of great tension within the royal family often coincide with periods of global turbulence. In this sense, the crown is not just a reflection of its bearer but an amplifier that echoes their emotions into the fabric of reality. Additionally, there are reports that the crown contains physical secrets that have never been publicly revealed. Some historians suggest there are inscriptions engraved within its interior, visible only to those who dismantle it, something rarely done. These symbols, theorists say, could be sigils or magical runes added during its creation to seal or stabilize the spiritual forces it contains. There is even speculation that fragments of other mystical objects, such as ritual stones or small amulets, were embedded in its structure to reinforce its power. The relationship between the crown and the United Kingdom is another point of intrigue. For many occult scholars, the crown is not merely a passive object. It is a nucleus of energy that sustains not only the monarchy but also the spiritual balance of the country. Some believe this is why the crown has never been allowed outside British territory, even in moments of great danger, such as during World War II. Removing the crown from its energy anchor could destabilize the force it keeps bound to the land. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the crown's supernatural power is its apparent consciousness. Numerous accounts suggest that the artifact seems to react to the emotions and intentions of those around it. Guards who watch over the crown jewels at the Tower of London often describe inexplicable sensations when near the artifact, such as chills or a sudden feeling of being observed. Some report having disturbing dreams after long shifts near the crown. These experiences suggest that the crown is not merely a receptacle of power but something alive, interacting with its surroundings in ways we do not yet understand. The idea that the crown possesses its own will is further reinforced by historical incidents. In 1902, during the coronation of Edward VII, the archbishop struggled to adjust the crown on the monarch's head. The piece seemed to slip repeatedly, as if resisting being worn. Some interpreted this as a bad omen. And indeed, the following years were marked by political and personal instability for the king. This event led many to wonder, is it possible that the crown chooses its bearers? What makes the crown so singular is not just its supernatural power, but its ability to shape the world around it. It is more than a symbol of authority. It is power itself, pulsing, interacting, and influencing everything in its orbit. Its energy transcends the material and touches spiritual dimensions that few dare to explore. Perhaps this is why the British royal family will never allow the crown to be destroyed or taken out of their control. It is not merely a relic. It is a portal, an anchor, and possibly the dominant force behind one of the most powerful realms in history. The imperial state crown is undoubtedly one of the most enigmatic and powerful artifacts humanity has ever known. Its history is marked by glory and tragedy, its design carries ancient secrets, and its essence transcends the physical world. More than a symbol of authority, it is a manifestation of forces beyond human comprehension. Forces that have shaped the history of the British monarchy and still influence the fate of nations today. Guarded zealously, protected by rituals, and never allowed outside British territory, the crown serves as a reminder that power always comes at a price. Its mystery remains alive, and we may never fully understand what it truly is or what it is still capable of doing. If you're interested in exploring more about spirituality, I've selected some videos just for you, filled with profound knowledge and fascinating discoveries you're sure to love. Just click on one of them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of self-discovery and spiritual learning. Your commitment to knowledge is the first step toward transforming your reality.